This conference will now be recorded.
So we're going to discuss about how do we create a Windows machines, and Windows machines we have seen how we can form the Windows clustering on top of it always on top of that load balancer. So and we have to join the servers into the domain. So everything we're going to see, guys. Just try to follow right from the beginning. It's very important. So now I'm going to create a network first to integrate the VMs into that network. So let's go with the standard discussion. So I'm going to create one network and I'm going to use this network for creations. So then AG group, anything we can create, AG VNet something, and I'm going to create one network 172.25.0.0. You can pick up any network which should be part of private network. It should be A class, C class, and B class. Any class you want to take it. AD subnet 172.25.1.0/24. I'll create one more SQL subnet. SQL subnet 172.25 sorry 25.2.0/24. Right. We need three VMs, two for always on, one for the Active Directory. So let's create them once this network comes online. Right, we're going to create the virtual machines now. So ADVM01, just the namesake. And this no need to be part of availability option. We will talk about availability option a little because we discussed that what is availability options already in detail. It protects against planned events, unplanned events, whatever it is. So if you place a server under availability set, it will give you 99.99% availability on the machine. Okay. I'm opening the ports anyway to talk to the RDP. We discussed all of that anyway. So networking, I am going to place this in AD subnet. Rest are all fine. Right. For creating the SQL servers, we need availability set. It's mandatory for us because you are using more than one server for the same use. This is a concept I discussed. Whenever you are using more than one server for the same purpose, you definitely have to go to the availability set to protect the VMs. SQL VM01, and I'm going to use availability option now to protect the servers with a minimum two racks, AG availability groups, AV availability set something. Okay. And here by default it is 2 and by default 5. Let it be. It's a minimum comes with the minimum and maximum is 2 only for fault domain here. All right. So now we are adding the fault domain to protect the servers. Next, I'm going to use all the rest of the options as usual. Fine. Disks. Always use a standard disk. Why to waste money on that when you can reduce the cost when you're practicing it, right? The rest all leave it as it is. I'm just placing this VM into the SQL subnet because we created two subnets in fact, right? Right, SQL. So next I'm going to create one more. Then we will start configurations. So I'm adding this server also into the same availability group. It should be going to the same. If it is different again, you are going into different tracking model. So that can create the issue. So you have to place all the nodes into one availability zone, sorry, one availability set group for one set of servers. You should not mix always. Right, let's connect to this. It's taking time. Let's wait for that to happen. So I have written all the steps what we are doing. So this will help you out. So we created a resource group, and resource group was already there anyway. We created one VNet and two subnets. One is a AD subnet, one SQL subnet, and created availability set for the SQL VMs and loaded into servers. SQL VMs should be part of the availability set to protect the servers. Create the VM for AD, that also we have done, and joining to the AD, we will see that further. Come on, it's taking. Why it is taking this long? Microsoft may be getting too much infrastructure, request from the market. It used to be very fast. Right. Meanwhile, on this one, we're still creating, right? Right. On this one, let's go and disable the IE first. I'm going to apply AD service to the server. By default, you don't get it. You have to apply. So what you have to do, go to dashboard, click on the add roles and features and hit next, next, and next, and Active Directory domain services. This is what we wanted, and DNS for name resolution. what all you wanted. So hit next, 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 install. That's it. This will install the Active Directory services. It won't become Active Directory server. You have to enable that with the domain. At least it will. You can make this server as a domain if you install that plugin. That's too much. It's taking too long. 1 minute, guys. Hey guys. So I'm just connecting to the nodes. I was on mute. Sorry. Right. So all the three machines are up. Let's walk further, one after the other. So follow it very carefully because all steps goes in sequential. So observe it. Anyway, it is recording. It's not responding. Yeah, initial load will take time when it is loading for the first time. We don't need this. So here first we'll install failover cluster tool. It's mandatory to install failover cluster tool first. It must be installed on both the nodes. Right. So next, what we're going to do here also, we're going to install failover clustering tool. You must have this tool on the SQL nodes to configure the Windows clustering first. On all the
We need,
nodes which you. Mhm.
in domain also we need to install failover cluster.
No, why you need in a domain? Domain you don't need it.
Only
Domain
these two.
only the SQL servers on which you're going to form the cluster. Domain is gives only authentication. You need a domain account mandatorily to form the AG groups. So now I'm going to create this as a domain server. Promote this server to domain controller. I'm going to keep it as SQL DBA.com. Anything can keep it.
Ravi, in real world, there is no need of turning off of firewalls like this, right?
You don't need it actually. They will be opening the necessary ports.
Okay.
Generally, we can even switch off locally because energy is protecting anyway. Energy has all the filtrations. When this is doing the job, we have to download the SQL setup. You can give your own email IDs here, guys. There is no issue. I had to do same thing. Preparation will take a lot of time. That's the problem. Because these are all not our job anyway to do, but we need to go through all these steps. You don't build a domain. We don't add the servers into the domain. All that. Come on. So I quickly hit the download. You just get the plugin. All right. Come back to this. So SQL DB is the domain what we are building, which is fine. You don't need to do anything. Just hit next, and finish. It'll apply the domain. So this will install the domain and it will get restarted automatically. Let that happen. It takes some time. Meanwhile, here, oh, it is good. It is downloaded already. Excellent. So I'm going to work parallelly on these nodes to do the installation, guys. You all know that installation. It's a standalone installation for now. Nothing else. Yeah, we'll install SMS also. So evaluation edition, of course. It's not a licensed one. I don't need an update. You can select it. It will take extra time, so which is fine. Still applying.
There is any major differences between licensed version and these free versions?
Yeah, well, features wise you don't have it, but it'll expire after 180 days. You have to activate the license within 6 months.
No, I mean to ask installation process and issues.
No, there is no difference. All are same. They are giving you trial version with all the features. There is no deprecated thing here anyway. Get everything, but after the installation, after 6 months, it'll expire and it won't work anymore after that. That's it. These are the basic services we wanted. Right. I'm going to install this in a mixer mode because we're going to join this server to the domain. That time, this is SA account is going to help us to recover the access. Yeah, fine. Right. I'm going to download SMS meanwhile. So let this finish, then we'll install SMS. This will take time. Now connect to the domain server where we enable domain. So we already have a domain, so I'm going with the domain account now. I don't need local account anymore because we enable the domain on the server. So it listens on the domain now. See, SQL DBA, I'm going with. I'm going to simulate the real world anyway. I mean, we're going to create SQL DB account, and using that account, we're going to perform installations and all. Okay, everything is actually loading at the moment. This is installing, so we have to wait. So when you configure the domain, when you log in for the first time, the group policies will take time to load up. So it might take a minute, it might take 3-4 minutes also. It's going slow. Still not on. Right, so let me install SMS. Then we'll trigger and we'll go towards domain. Support to finish. Oh, I did not download SMS here. I did, right? Oh, come on. Right. So now it is loaded. Good enough. So now we're going to create service accounts. So if you wanted to form the AlwaysOn group, SQL Server services must be on the domain account. It's mandatory. With the local accounts, we cannot join into AG. So to join to the AG, we need service accounts of domain. So I'm going to create it. Go to Active Directory Administrative Services. Click on this. Here we're going to create the accounts. Domain. We're going to create a new users. Two service accounts. SQL Service 1. And password should not expire for the service accounts. Next user. SQL Service 2. Right. Next, I'm going to create DB account. Let's call it as a Sql admin. DB account name, just for the namesake. Hey guys, I joined back. I lost the power here, so you can hear me, right?
Yes, Ravi, we can hear
Everyone,
you.
sorry for that. So sometimes I lose the power during the
Yes,
class.
yes.
So yeah. So what we were doing, we were creating this account, right? So SQL admin, and this is equivalent to our SQL DBA account in the real time. I'm going to give the similar privileges to that account. I'm going to configure using the same account. So for that, you need to add extra privilege. Okay, what is that extra privilege
So
we need to add?
Rahul,
SQL.
we are creating all these things in the AD server, right? I mean,
AD,
domain server.
AD, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
we are in the domain server, SQL DB domain. So SQL admin, SQL service 1, 2, and SQL admin. So to SQL admins, we need to give one special privilege. So to give that, click on the Azure Active Directory Administrative Center and click on this. And after that, you click on the extensions and then advanced. It is recording, so you just follow it. Add it. Select principal. The principal is SQL admin, what we created, right? And I'm going to give create computer object. This is a privilege we need to give it. Okay. As a SQL DBA to form the Windows clustering, we need create computer object permission, because when you form the Windows cluster group, it will create an object in the background. When you form the AlwaysOn group with the listener will create an object in the background. So to do that, you need to have this privilege. Okay, fine. It is done. So now we will try to join the servers into the domain. So right now, if you see the
Sir, in real time, this AD work will be done by DBA or else AD team will be there.
no AD team will take care. Windows team will should do that. We never do this. because I have to take you to that discussion, final discussion. So I have to do all of this.
Yeah, I understand.
So right now we don't have any computers in the domain. And if I look at the domain IP, 172.25.1.4. This you have to update in the SQL nodes, both the nodes. So I'll go to this, I'll go to local server in the Ethernet network, click on this, right click, properties, IPv4 properties, and apply that IP 172.25.1.4. Okay, so this is a domain. You must apply that IP 172.25.1.4. 172.25.1.4. Apply and close, and then reboot the server. Then we can join the server into the domain. Else it won't detect the domain. You do the same thing when you're trying to practice. Okay, because it's recording, absolutely do follow the same steps what I'm doing. This is what you have to do. Right. Now you have to reboot both the machines. Come on. They are rebooting now. Right. Let's connect. It's not it up, it seems. I'm connecting with the local accounts only. Now I'll join the servers to the domain. I'm the domain administrator because I know the domain password, so I can join the servers into the domain. So right now, no server is in the domain. It is in the work group by default, so we need to join to the domain. Sql DBA slash Ravinder. I can do this. So because I am the domain administrator here, so welcome to sqldb.com. This has been added to the domain. So restart now. And now if you go and refresh, you get the node here, see, like this. I'll join this one also to the domain. Sql DBA dot Sql DBA slash sqldba.com. It is reaching because I updated the DNS IP. Okay. All right. So both the machines are joined to the domain now. Now we'll start the Windows cluster. First, they need to be part of the domain servers to form the Windows cluster. If not, they don't form the Windows cluster. So first node, okay. I can go with the domain now, actually, right? Sorry, why did I hit that? So more options. Okay. SQL. Okay, 1 minute. We connect. We can give this SQL DBA slash Ravindra. I'm going to domain administrator at the moment. First, we'll join with the domain administrator to add the service account to the local admin group. To get the RDP, you need to be local admin group or a remotely authorized user. Right. So what we have to do now? We have to add the service account and admin account into the local group. Right. Look at it. All right, next here. SQL service 1, SQL service 2, SQL admin. Right, we are done with this one. I'll log off. I'll log in with the SQL admin account now. That is our SQL equivalent to SQL account. So I'll go with the SQL DBA SQL admin, which is equivalent to SQL DBA account in the real time. Following, right, everyone?
Yes, Ravi.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, if you have questions, please raise your questions. Right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to Open the configuration manager. Here we install, right? Configuration manager. Open SQL SMS. Right. So these servers are running with the local accounts. You can see that, right? Should not run with the local account. So you must change it to domain. So I'm going to change it. So we created domain accounts before we did this, okay? SQL service 1.
This is full admin. We have given full domain admin rights, no, to them.
No, why domain? No. It's just a service account. It doesn't have any privilege on the domain. It has a local admin privilege. We mapped it to local admin group.
Okay, only local admin. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And did we add that to create computer objects in the, I mean, that privilege? That is only
That
for
is for the
SQL.
SQL admin, yes.
No, not for this account. Okay.
No, this account just runs the service. Why did it need? Right. So we are on the domain side. Now if I'm trying to connect to the SQL server, I cannot connect. Why? Why I cannot connect? Because I logging with SQL DBA. SQL DBA is not valid login. We did the installation with the local Ravinder, right? So I have the SA account privilege. So I can recover the access using the SA account. This is the reason I installed in a mixed mode. SQL admin. Now I'll connect with the Windows account. The same way I'll recover the access in other server. I cannot connect as usual. So right. So SQL side we're good. So first let's form the Windows cluster. So we have a tool called Failover Cluster Manager tool. We installed on both the nodes. We know that, right? We installed on both the nodes. So now, what is this? We don't have anything. So before I do it, let me show the domain. So you have two objects in the domain at the moment. To form the Windows cluster group, we need to create a computer object. It is also like a network object, which will bind the machines together as a group. So SQL also has need an object. Windows also need an object. So create cluster. You can click on this to create it, or else you can go to action and create cluster. Anything is fine. Either of that. Hit next. The thing you need to be very careful when you're doing with the cloud cluster configuration, you have to add only one node first, then add the second node. It's a mandatory. First add one node and then form the cluster with the, once everything is up, no need to run the validation because just we don't have any shared storage or dependencies. So wind AG group. I'm just keeping like that. It will create a cluster group. So simple it is. Right. So now you'll see one node into the cluster, and if you look at this, this is the object. It will get created in the domain. You can see that. See, failover cluster virtual network name. It will write a name, virtual network name account. It is created by our Sql DBA account. It is creating an object through our account privileges, right? So now I'm going to add the other node, which is Sql VM02. One after the, I mean, first one you have to add it. Next time you have how many nodes you have it all, you can add at a time. It's possible. So we don't need this validation. Whatever it is, we don't need it actually. Anyway, let's run, not an issue. We don't have any dependencies to fail here. We don't have a common storage. We have the networks in the same subnet. So issues, we don't see any issues for sure. Right, which is fine. Step next. No eligible storage for this anyway. Joining, right, it is joined. Now you can see both the nodes are up in the cluster. This is what you have to do from the Windows side to do it. Now we will come to the SQL layer. To see, come to the SQL layer, if I click on this, it must be always on feature must be enabled on the service level first to configure, right? So go to here, properties, and enable the always on, and then restart the service. It is on restart. Did I change the service account here? It must be. I did not, so I'll do it. SQL service 1, service 2, in fact. In always on both the nodes, account can be different. No need to have the same account. If it is a cluster, SQL cluster group, then you need to have definitely a same account. It's independent node, so you don't need to have the same service account if it is always on. It can be different. It will work. Right. So now we have to enable that feature at service level. Now we can form the always on, right? So I just have to refresh. So what? I did the restart, right? Did not do the restart. Okay. Right. It must be on the other node also should load as this node. So, so, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to form the first before you form, if you're trying to create SQL AG group, SQL AG group, it won't let you. You need at least one database. It is not taking you further steps. So I need at least one database to do this. So I'm going to use one test database, test. And after creation also, you cannot do it. You must take one full backup. That is also mandatory. SQL AG group, something whatever it is. Full backup required. Database lacks full database backup, so you have to take at least one full backup of that database. It's mandatory. Right? Done. So now I'm going to create availability group. SQL AG group. This group is going to make a entry in the role section. What we are going to create this. So in the SQL cluster group, that is a Windows cluster group, this SQL cluster group. Okay, hit next. And we got the database. And there are multiple ways to initialize the database, guys. We can take the backup manually, initialize with a full backup and log backup, or else it will take the full backup, log backup and initialize, or else it will auto seed automatically. So any of that, I'm just sharing this screen, this path with see here, I'm creating a directory. I'm sharing with everyone to have a read-write access. So I'll create and initialize databases in multiple ways. We'll see it. Hit next. Add our second replica here. Right? Synchronous commit. We wanted synchronous. And if you go with the intent only applications can read, but we cannot read it in the backend. Only applications can read route to this one, but we cannot actually read. If you keep it yes, you can read it. You can take the full backup and log backup. You can run the DB check DB. So these are all operations are available. If you keep it yes, and if it is yes, you have to pay entire licensing. If you no licensing, absolutely no licensing. You don't need to pay. But if you are paying, if you are keeping it yes or read intent, you have to pay the licensing for both the nodes.
Read intent means we can read and take backup. That's
You
all.
cannot even take the backup, I guess. You can take the backup. You cannot. It's only read. That's it. That is also possible through the application, not in the backend. Read intent means. Endpoints, let it be what you wanted. If you wanted, you can change it. Do it when you are creating itself. If you create later on, if you change this port, it will create some issues, guys. As we've seen that. So if you want whatever the port you wanted to add it, add it. Backup reference, always prefer secondary. Always. Oh, don't keep secondary only, primary only, any replica. Always keep the prefer secondary. We can handle it anyway. Listener, you should not create. That should be there. Hit next. And automatic seeding, I'm going to talk. I created a path here. It will take the backup in the directory in this network path automatically, and it will take the full and log backup automatically and initialize. So listener, we did not do, that's why it is giving a warning, which is a known thing. That comes through the load balancer. So it's like a traditional always on group only, except the listener integration, the load balancer integration. All right, it is done. So now it took the full backup, log backup, and initialize the database and configure the AG and everything. You can see that now. So if I expand, I get the two nodes, one database, and no listener as of now. right? And database is in the AG right now. You can see that. I can connect to 2. You can see the AG here also. It's a secondary, right? It's secondary, and right, it's primary, secondary. You can see all of this. What is missing piece is listener. Listener, you should come through the load balancer only, right? So anyway, let's talk about one more thing. I'm creating a new database. I wanted to sync this database. At any time you can sync it anyway. You must take one full backup. That's known thing. What is the other way of installation of database? So full backup has been taken. Now I want to add a new database. Add database. Before that, if you want me to create one table, I'll create it anyway, just for the sake. It does auto seed. Auto seed does not require any directory and all. It directly seeds server to server, which is absolutely great feature. From 2016 onwards, it is available, not in 2014. So auto seed is a good thing. When you have a large databases to sync, auto seed is the best option. Okay. All right, now I'm going to sync this database into the AG. So how do I do that? Go to here, add database, hit next. And this database, you already have it, right? Hit next. Connect to the secondary node, hit next. I'm going to use auto seeding. Auto seeding, SQL Server automatically creates database for every selected secondary replica. Automatic seeding requires that the data and log files on the target server must be the same directory, should not be different, okay? Hit next, nothing you have to do. Next, finish. It does the sync automatically for you, okay? It's synced up. You don't need to take the backup to any network, nothing. It does the sync server to server. So that's how it is. Whenever you have a huge bulk databases, you see here, you don't have to backup here. It go through the VDI data sync. Basically, in the background VDI backups, it'll take the snapshot and apply to the target. Basically, it will stream the data. So if it is a huge, it will stream the data and apply automatically. So how it is moving the transactions from primary to secondary through the endpoints. The data also will be exchanged when you are seeding through endpoints only and loaded automatically on the target. So you don't need any network path, all that. There is one more method of adding databases backup resource. You have to take full and log backup and initialize and join. So that I'm not doing anyway. Simple thing. You have to take full backup, log backup, restore with no recovery and join. Join only. It will join automatically. Right. Next. What next we have to do? We have to create the listener. That's some ultimate goal for us. So come to the load balancer. Create load balancer. It must be internal. And if I go to the machine IPs, that is very important for us. Machine IPs are actually standard. We must check here. It is dynamic. It's standard for sure. So what I have to do now, I have to. It is a something dynamic, right? It is. It is a basic IP basically. So create load balancer. INTLB internal basic. Hit next. One IP we must add it from the subnet SQL subnet here. I'll go with the static IP, internal IP, and the IP I'm going to call it as 172.25.2.10. From this subnet I'm giving it. Add an IP which is available. Backend pool, we have two SQL VMs inside this, right? So I'm going to add them. right? This name is just a backend poll. Next, inbound rules, we don't need it. Why? Because it's internal, it's not for the external, so which is fine. Outbound rules we don't want. Go to here, next, create. Right, it is done. So now the load balancer is up. Come on. So go to here, front-end IP and back-end pools, and health prop we must create. The health prop is health SQL health prop. We can make it. They created a one port, a specific port for health prop of AG 5999. This is given by the Microsoft. Use the same port 5999. SQL health prop TCP, and it does a health prop on 5999 port. It is given by the Microsoft. An interval of 5 seconds, every 5 seconds it has to verify and do the failover in case of one node is down. The main component what we need to understand is enable the floating IP. That makes the load balancer to connect to the primary only. If not, it will try to connect to both at a time. That will make a disaster. That single option makes the entire AG functionality, different. So be careful when we are actually creating the load balancing rule. This is very important, especially. LB rules, you can give it anything, doesn't matter. Front end IP address, this internal IP address, what we created, and port 1433 SQL Server port number here, you have to give it. Backend port also 1433, and backend pull 2 VMs inside. Health prob is this, and this must be enabled. If that is not enabled, your entire listener concept will go wrong. This for normal load balancer, you don't enable. This specifically created for always on actually. So without the floating IP, Azure exposes traditional load balancing. Traditional means normal load balancing. IP address mapping scheme for ease of use. The VM instances IP. Enable the floating IP changes. IP address mapping to the front-end IP load balancer to allow the additional flexibility. You must enable this to connect one IP in the background, not both. What is primary detects through the floating IP concept only. You have to be very careful on this point. If you lose this, you almost messed up the entire AG configuration. Enabling is mandatory. Right, add it. So we are done from the load balancing side. So what we need to do, we need to integrate this load balancer with the SQL Listener. So for that, you have only PowerShell script. You don't have a manual method for that. So I'll explain this. It's very simple anyway.
We cannot go for a wizard like we do in on-premise AG
No,
configuration.
this for integrating load balancer with the listener, there is no such thing. You have to go through the PowerShell only. I'll explain it simple anyway. So first thing is you have to create a listener and make that integrated. So go to here, add resource, create client access point, and here SQL LSN, whatever it is, listener kind of LSN, and then hit next and finish. So now if I go to here, this object got created. You need to give the IP what we have used in the load balancer. That's how this is going to tag together. The IP is going to be make the binding basically. Okay, apply. Click it. Okay, now let it be offline. Don't make it offline for now. So now what I'm going to do, there is a cluster network name. Where do I get this name? I'll get from the cluster. Your network, what is the network name? Go to here, pick up the network name as it is in the parameter. Okay, you must exactly replace it. And then IP resource name. IP resource name is this. This is what our resource first. These are all resources, right? So IP resource name is this. You have to pick up this name, IP resource name. Whatever is there, just pick up as it is again and then copy paste. And load balancer IP. Load balancer IP, what we have given? 175.25 2.10. That you have to give it here. 2.10, let it be 175 172.25, right? It has to match. These parameters are very, very important. Okay. Once here it is clearly mentioned the IP address of the internal load balancer. This is static address for the load balancer you configured in the portal. We made it static anyway. 172.25.2.10. And cluster resource name, we got it from cluster. Go to here, properties, right? So next, import the module to run this command. You must import this module. It is there. This command is available on the Microsoft website anyway. So get Azure, so cluster resource, IP resource name, it is there from the variable. Set cluster, this multiple I'm going to talk about. We have a PowerShell automation there. We're going to see that. Address, the IP address is this one, load balancer IP. Prop port 5999. We have used 5999, I said. And the subnet mask, the subnet mask, you get it from here. Whatever is there, you have to copy paste absolutely. So it is the same thing. 255.255.255.0. Network cluster name, it is coming here. Enable DHCP, no, you don't enable it. Okay, we assign the IPs and all, right? DHCP is not assigned. So now I'll pick up this command as it is. Go to the PowerShell. This is a very important step in this one. Right, without any issues, it came online means absolutely fine. Now bring it online. Let's bring this online, it'll come online. So now you still don't see the listener yet. Availability group, and you don't find the listener yet. What should I do? You can see that listener. If you see here, there is an object SQL lesson. It is created in the domain. Because I created access point, that time it'll create itself. Come on, why? This won't expand. Anyway, fine. So now you got the lesson here. So what I have to do to show as a listener name here, I have to make one more configuration. Go to here, easy group, what you created. Under dependencies, you must add it as a dependent. That's it. Apply. Okay, and you get the listener here. That's it. So now if I connect to the SQL lesson, it will connect. See, it is connecting to the primary only. If I create here a new database, where it will create? On the primary, of course. Does not on the secondary. This is secondary. If I do the failover for some reason, now this listener will connect to the current primary. It should show only two databases. Right. You can see two databases. So this will connect to the current primary automatically. So this is how the configuration. This is how it is. So if you come to here, so we created a DB admin or SQL admin in our case for DBA account, and then with two service accounts, and create two VMs for available in the availability set, and we went with the 175.25 dot here, here 172.25 dot the node IPs. Alright, preferred DNS you have to change on the SQL VMs, add the VMs to domain, configure the Windows cluster group, install the SQL server on both the servers, enable the always on both the one, and configure the load balancer and tag them. These are the steps we have done. And the last thing I wanted to discuss before I open up for your questions, if at all I want to run the job on primary all the time, okay, it should verify the nodes. Just a minute, I'll get some water. Just a minute. Okay, sorry. So now you have a jobs, and job must run on both the servers. It has to verify primary, it has to run the job. So this is SQL VM01, SQL VM01, and here too I'm going to configure the backups, the local directory. Fine, I'll show this how it works. Not this, we wanted to create a maintenance plan, anything is fine. So anything, I'm just creating one maintenance plan, and I'm going to take all database backups. Taking time to load plugins. Right, I'm just going to build backup database task. Follow this carefully. All databases, ignore if database is not online, and where we need to take the backup destination. I'm just going to give this directory. Right, and options. In the options, you have to select one thing, very important. For availability replica, ignore the replica priority. We gave the priority to take the backup on the secondary only. So I'm telling that ignore it. Whatever the priority you have it, just ignore it. Backup on the primary setting. So for backup and backup on the primary you can take the backup when you enable this. If you don't enable this, backup won't happen on the primary. It will only possible on the secondary. You have to enable this option. If you're running the backup or anything that you wanted, basically, except for the backup anyway, this is for the backup only. You wanted to run a job, normal job, keep it the job as it is. We'll add one step. What is that step I'm going to discuss? The same thing I'm going to do in the other server. Maintenance plan. Right, here also you have to enable this option again. Right, so what happens, now understand this. If I run the job on this one, what happens? It runs to success because we said take the backup on the primary. Okay, actually, we have to enable that option. We enable, right? Possible reasons are result set property, and here what it said, we cannot take the backup on this. Anyway, error, it has to tell you that error command is not supported, right? This one, backup restore not supported on the secondary replica. It is secondary as of now, right? You can see that it is secondary. Now if I run on the primary, go to the agent, should run on the primary. But job can, it can become primary, this can become secondary. So it is failing, it should not fail. We don't want that to fail. Why? Because it is no, it is running on both the servers. We wanted to handle it. So how do I handle it? There is a script for it. So you want it to run only on the primary, this is a script. If you wanted to change it on the secondary, you have to just change in the script as secondary, nothing else. So if I run this, it is saying that this secondary, don't continue here. If I run the same script on the primary, it run to success without issues. Questions? Anyone?
So yeah, Ravinder, this script we need to run on the secondary or the primary to make it as this backup
Both,
on the
both,
both,
both the
both.
one.
Okay,
It has to
okay,
handle actually.
okay, okay.
I have done in my environment with the two steps. One step is checking whether that database in AG, I mean secondary or primary, then it will fail or succeed to go next step. Then it is working. So like that, I'm managing.
It is same thing. It is same thing. Same thing you have done, right? The
Yeah. Okay.
secondary okay, fine. We have to match the AG name actually. That's where it is struggling to not to find SQL AG group. Is it the same? SQL AG. Oh, sorry, I gave the wrong name. It's struggling goop. I gave you wrong name. Fine. One more G is missing. Right. Fine. So the script actually will handle it. It runs only on the primary. Okay. Now I'll take this script as, I'll go to here, job properties, go to steps, add a new step, AG underscore role check. Okay. It is checking it, and you have to make it up, and it has to run from the first step. AG, this you must do it. And here in the AG role check, hit next, hit edit actually, go to advanced. What you have to do, on success, go to the next step. On failure, quit the job basically. Quit the job reporting success basically. Okay, don't failure. It know that if it is failed on the first step, it know that okay, it is not a primary. So that way you have to do the configuration. I'll do on the other node the same thing. Then job will never fail, irrespective of the primary or secondary. It runs on both the nodes, but it runs only on the primary all the time. All the jobs you have to make this way. Okay.
So any specific reasons why we need to take backups only on the primary and just checking?
No, it's your choice. You want to take on the primary,
Okay.
don't do this. It only take the primary. You have to, in that case, you have to make this thing. Here you have to change it to secondary, and it is a secondary replica, and this is a primary replica. The script will change in that case. You want it to
Okay.
run only secondary. It is change. It is failing on the primary, but it will succeed on the secondary step like this. You have to reverse it, nothing else, right? And this one, so what I'm trying to explain here is, if you have a AG jobs, okay, if you have a AG jobs, and if node get failover, if you don't have a jobs, what happens? It will not run. So jobs should exist on all the AG servers, and it has to be handled with a role check. Whatever is primary, there only it has to run. If I run the backup here, it won't fail you anymore, though it is a secondary or primary. I run it. Why it is actually not failing? It is warning anyway. It is failing on the first one. But as we said, if it fails, go to success, it will go with a warning. It doesn't fail. Now, if I go on back and here, if I run the job here, it will succeed here anyway, because it's a primary. We handled it, right? Again, I run the, so just to build the history. Now, if I go back and see the history, all are successful. Now I'll do the failover. See, this is primary where it was succeeding it. Now I'm going to do the failover. Done. Now, if you go and run the job here, it'll run to success here because this is primary right now. So now if I go and verify, it is successful. If I go and run this one, it will be failed. Failed in the sense, it won't fail the job, but it will fail on the first step. This is how you have to handle it. All the jobs must be placed like this. It has to verify the role and run the job so that even node gets failover, you don't see any issues. There is no node dependency. You should create that way. All the jobs. With this, we are done, guys. Any questions? I'm done with the entire configuration. And anything you have in your mind, let me know. We can talk about it and then close the topic.
See, okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go.
See, in our normal, I mean, on-premise AG setting, the listener, that IP, infra team is giving. So, like that way, if we take an IP and can we configure without a load balancer, why it is not working?
That's how the cloud is made. You have to follow that. Why it is made like that is a Microsoft only can answer. This is the process they made it. You have to follow this for sure. If it is a cloud.
Okay.
Why load balancer? Even I did not like that process. Why they made it when it is straight away. You can create a listener as usual like on-prem, but
Yeah,
it won't
yeah, yeah.
support.
Okay.
That's how it is. Yeah, someone else was trying to ask a question. Please go ahead. No questions?
So how are we monitoring any of the issues in the AG group in that through Azure portal? So we'll be seeing any of the monitoring.
No. Azure, see, Azure does not know that it's a AGVM or anything. It doesn't know. You have to do some
Okay.
monitoring within the VM itself. Azure
Okay.
doesn't know. Azure just given you a VM. What do you do? What do you monitor yourself? It is our job within the VM. How you generate the alerts and all that. Doesn't
Oh,
come anything from SaaS side. You will get a lot of things, but IaaS side you don't get it. Inside whatever you have it, you have to do yourself with third-party tools. There is no cloud integration with that
okay. Okay. I
monitoring process.
understand that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Oh, yeah, one more. That can we create that two servers like DR, like primary in one location and DR in another, I mean Azure location?
Yeah, you can, but in that case, your this will get one more IP, and cluster group also will get one more IP. Basically, when you're joining, your IPs will be, the nodes will come with the different IPs basically. Then you have to apply two IPs to the listener. Wherever the primary node is up, that network will come online. It's like on-prem only. There is no difference. Multi-subnet kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? If not, I'll stop.